Alright, we're back to another professional match. In the bottom right, the American hero, one of the best Protosses in the world, especially outside of Korea. It's Neeb. And in the top left, from the Netherlands, one of the top Terran players outside of Korea. I keep saying outside of Korea because we all know how that goes. And if we don't, we'll watch some more STARCRAFT and people will tell you. It's Uthermal. One of my favorite Terran players. This is not meant to be offensive. This is meant as a compliment. When I watch Maru play, I say, oh my god, wow. You do crazy things. They're insane. They make Terran look ridiculous. I could never hope to emulate that. I have no idea how you do it. I could never do that. When I watch Uthermal, and he streams and all that, and his builds and his play, I say, you know what? I can steal this. I can steal this. And I appreciate that, because as a Terran player, especially against Protoss, I'm always looking for something new. Just looking so far. Neeb deciding to wall off at the front. This is mostly a deal with Hellion run-bys and the like. Will he actually add a pylon towards the north here to eventually wall off this Reaper location? If he hasn't yet, he probably won't. I give up. I give up on this game. I don't care anymore. Of course he will. I knew that. I don't know why I didn't double down on committing to it. Hides the probe here. This is to avoid a Reaper scout. We'll see if the Reaper's able to find it. Thank you, Real Altrius.
Will be rewarded.
Watch the 3-race Wombo combo on YouTube. Awesome.
Glad you enjoy. A Stargate on the way. And now this is... The Stargate is in an interesting place when it comes to Terran versus Protoss at the moment. This match is from WESG? Wait, let me see where this is from. I don't know now. This is now a casual cast because all my professional casting has gone out the window because I forgot what I was even saying here. But the Stargate, it's a very active building. Especially in PvT more than any other matchup, because if you don't really get something done early, or at least get a beat on what they're doing and react quickly, if that first Oracle dies to a Widow Mine, or you just sit back and build up a bunch of Phoenixes, you're going to have a bad time. That was almost really safe micro there, by the way. You're going to have a bad time, because Terran players, he knows that a Stargate's on the way. Once you have enough Marines, you have Stim, you have Widow Mines, Stargate units just melt. They evaporate as soon as a few Marines... Oh. Great Widow Mine timing there. Knocks out the Adept, but the Widow Mine is revealed. He now knows there's a Widow Mine. So, a little bit of a trade-off. Not a great one. Obviously, you want to keep the Adept alive, but good pick-off from Uthermal. First, are there any Widow Mines hidden? There are no Widow Mines in there, right? A lot of players will try to hide them behind a refinery or behind the dish of the orbital or something silly like that. Whoa! 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 Shit! Okay, you can't blame me. Neeb got fooled too. That is a new one. That is... Well, that's a new idea. I mean, I've kind of seen that before. But I was looking for it as an observer with full vision, and he snuck it up on me. So you got to give credit to Uthermal. Credit where credit is due. And he puts it next to the barracks that's building, because obviously the Oracle wants to come in. He's looking for it here. He kind of like jukes a little around. He's looking. But the line that showed the lock-on was actually heavily blocked by the starport. So he didn't quite notice it in time and didn't pull back. He was looking for it, but the starport actually blocked the line just enough so Neeb didn't quite realize. Yeah, these things matter. If it had been a little bit, if it's just at the edge of the base, or if it's just at the front or in the middle line, Neeb knows. But it was tucked in between this little back alley behind the starport. Even Neeb was looking for it. He was looking down that alley, but... Now, the Phoenix doesn't die to a Widowmine in a single hit. So, he can use that to kind of buffer as a less vulnerable scout. Losing a Phoenix is not nearly as big a deal as losing an Oracle. But Neeb, stay in the course here. He sees the timing. He knows that the starport is building a reactor. There aren't medevacs on the way yet. He needs to get this third base up because Neeb is playing a style that requires a better economy. Neeb has to have an overwhelming amount of units because the Terran units with stim and combat shields and +1 and medevacs, these things are all very cost effective. Neeb has to match this with brute force because when you build a Stargate, you get map control essentially. You can build Phoenixes to shut down harass, the Oracles can deal with small attacks, so a Terran player has to sit back. So you got to use that map control to take another base. Oh, Neeb. He gets a tag, but lost a second Oracle to Widowmines. That's pretty sloppy. So Uthermal's going to have enough to build up. And actually Neeb going for Blink, which is even riskier than going for Mass Glaive to depth, but he hasn't been adding on Phoenixes. He needs some anti-air. Now, if he gets away with it, if his probe count starts shooting up 60 probes versus 46 SCVs, whatever, he's got 3 more gates on the way. But there is a big vulnerable timing here. There's no blink. There's no +1. The gates are just kicking in. There's 2 shield batteries. But none of these units do damage quickly enough to really outmatch the medevacs. So this is a very scary force coming out of Uthermal. Neeb, trying to stay on top of it, uses some of his energy on a hallucinated Phoenix, which is... Every bit of energy is precious here, because this is a razor-thin hold, potentially, out of Neeb. He's got their Widowmines in the medevacs. These Widowmine plays out of Uthermal. And he's taking a third base behind. So... And I think there's just enough that Neeb... I don't think Neeb realizes that. There's no way Neeb realizes this. Blink is about to finish. +1 is finished. But does he boost? He boosts them over the army. Neeb did not expect this. Doesn't quite go perfectly, but he gets them into a nice position over the force fields. And does that mean the third base is gone? Just kind of dancing around his minefield here. There's no detection. He's got to blink out. But the splash damage hits home. Probes are going to start to die. He actually blinks to the other side of the minefield. Uthermal continuing to dance back and forth. But blink is kicked in. +1 is kicked in. Probes are sacrificing themselves. A few hits come out, but he dodges that projectile with the blink. The medevac's just so cost-effective. The blink stalkers can be, but they're literally backed up against a wall right now. Starting to arc out and get a little bit more cost-effectiveness. Neeb dodging out so many Widowmine hits. If he misses 1 or 2 of those, it can snowball the other way. A back-and-forth battle here. 85 to 85 supplies. Stalkers falling left and right, but so are the Widowmines. Another one connects, but he gets a medevac at the end of it. So beautiful hold, but let's break that. Let's break that whole thing down. Actually, let's do that. From start to finish. Let's look at all the details of this fight, because so much was happening there. That was a pretty crazy fight. Thank you, Marion Moon, for that sub as well. But Uthermal, let's watch from his perspective. What is he doing? Bringing a Viking in, just using it to distract here. He doesn't really need a Viking. I mean, I guess maybe 4 prisms, but... He sees the army commits down there, so he's like, well, this is my time to fight. Medevacs come in, he D-clicks on him, drops it out. Goes back, adds on production.
Your dedication will be rewarded.
And I think he's still confident he's going to break through this at this point. Targeting down the Immortal. Continuing the dance back. Actually selecting the Widowmines. I don't know if that's for target firing or maybe he wants to pick them up. But still building throughout this. Sees another Immortal is stuck in. But you see him going back to his production over and over and over. Thank you, Omadon1, for that sub. But... He looked away for a couple seconds there, and those couple seconds are when the Stalkers... When those Stalkers really started to look cost-effective was when Uthermal had looked away for about 1-2 seconds. Uthermal looks away, and then suddenly the Stalkers start to overwhelm. But if Uthermal doesn't look away, he doesn't have his production online, he doesn't get his orbital on his third. So it's really a game of, like, when can I take my eyes away for 2 seconds? And unfortunately, those 2 seconds were really good for Neeb. Let's go to Neeb's side. Neeb coming in, chrono boosting out his upgrades. He notices his +1 finish there. He chrono boosted out Blink as well. Force fields. He's starting to realize what's happening there. Backs it up. Warpins. Notice he's not always selecting. He's not always just A-moving with his entire army. He's moving parts of the army around. And then manually select them. He's not just sticking with control groups. Because if he did, his entire army would be trying to wedge itself past the Nexus and make it really easy to get gunned down. A few units move forward. The rest are actually manually directed across. Dodges out with a box select. Control clicked the Stalkers there to get him behind the Immortal because he knew the Immortal was going to die. And now this is just individual clicking because the AI of units in StarCraft, if a unit is within a certain range, then that will be the next unit attacked. Unless they're manually focus firing, and no one's manually focus firing each individual Stalker at this point. There's too much going on. So when he knows which Stalker is going to be hit after he blinks back a Stalker, so we can already select it. And be prepared to blink the next one back, and so on and so on. And remember, these are the few seconds when Uthermal looked away. These Stalkers start to become really cost-effective. Still warping in on the side, moves back those Stalkers near the top, so the Stalkers at the south with full HP and shields can actually fight. Though nobody saw that, because apparently Comcast is ruining everything. Ruin! Alright, we'll go back a little. Notice him queuing up probes throughout that? Neeb has... Sometimes he loses games because of it as well. But Neeb just will never stop making probes. It's pretty damn rare to see him just cut probes and do a timing. Since upgrading shield, weapon, armor is so cheap, why don't they queue them up? 100 is not cheap. 1 or 2 Stalkers could have made or broke that fight. If he had +1 armor queued up, and it's not going to kick in that fight, he might have lost. It wasn't that close, but in some games it can be. Now, so Neeb has stabilized, but Uthermal has gotten a third behind this. Charge is the obvious choice for a follow-up. The Stalker is going to try to come in. Why are you so deep? What? Is he going to recall out? Like, blinks over the top. That is so deep right now. He's going to do the full run around. But is it worth losing all these Stalkers, Neeb? Okay, 1, 2, 2. Wow. So only like, well, besides the ones that died on the way in, like, only 3 or 4 Stalkers died in that exchange. So that, and he also drew the army the entire way back, which gave him a little bit more time to get a Nexus, get more upgrades, get towards Charge, because Charge is the next big thing. Having Charge means you have the meat, because at some point, like, you can't just fight against Liberator Bio with Stalkers and a few Immortals. You're gonna die. That's the simple version. Wow, really going for a Robo Bay and another Forge and charge. Choosing a Robo Bay instead of a Templar Archives. Did he see the Liberators? Is he just going to remain on Stalkers? I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, it seems like a pretty obvious Templar Archives game because he has so many bases. He's out-expanded the Terran. He's had map control with Blink Stalkers. Excuse me. I'm allergic to Protoss bullshit. But I'm kind of surprised. Like, Colossi are the choice. Maybe he's trying to preempt. Maybe he thinks Uthermal's gonna go Ghost or something. But I mean, Colossi are a very good unit against Bio, but it does leave him vulnerable to direct attacks. And here comes Uthermal, gonna bite off several Immortals. They're still in the freedom zones. He dodges back, trying to trade. But where are the charge lots? They all evaporated at the beginning of the fight. Neeb taking a losing battle there with Immortals and Widowmines combining. All he has are Gateway units. Yeah, he has pretty good upgrades. Actually, at 1-1, that's not pretty good. He's about even. He is even. I don't know what I'm saying. But I'm surprised Neeb decided that was a fight he even wanted to flirt with taking. A Colossus has joined the field. Does not have extended thermal lanes. Some more Widowmines on the low ground. He scans, sees the Observer, and also gives him vision up to the high ground. But Uthermal taking a 4th base very aggressively as well. You don't usually see Terrans take it quite that quick. But he's already got it online. The worker count 63 to 76. Uthermal darting in. He can cut off these Stalkers. He saw the blink to the left. He slides to the right. But more charge lots. Stalkers being slammed towards the net. A Widowmine actually takes out these Liberators. Neeb gonna try to fight this back. Blinks under. A Widowmine connects. The Liberators will go down. Does Neeb have what it takes to hold? The Colossi being knocked over. The shield battery's out of energy. Marauders barreling down. More charge lots being warped in. The shield battery doing its best to heal, but the damage output of these Marauders is incredible. Another Liberator going to be taken out. The Medivacs out of energy. The Widowmines work both ways. 16 probes have fallen. Just barely any energy left on these Medivacs. Uthermal doesn't want to overextend, but he wants to do as much damage to Neeb as he can before the upgrades kick in, before he gets more Colossi or even more Templar he doesn't know. The scan comes out. He sees the army isn't moving. The 4th base is vulnerable. The probes, will they be recalled out of here? The Nexus taken out as well. The 3rd base Nexus is still intact. Uthermal still trying to fight it out. Those units in autumn colors right now. Orange and yellow means he's not in full fighting condition. And +2 weapons is just now about to finish. At a weapon, well, at an upgrade disadvantage, you don't want to be fighting heads up against a Protoss. But those +2 weapons finish up. The Stalkers blink forward. He's willing to cut a few off. 72 to 52 army supply in favor of the Terran. There's a single Colossus standing tall. It does have extended thermal lance, but is that enough to turn the tides? Neeb needs to do damage. He needs to do damage. Because he's down on workers, down on bases, and eventually he's going to be down on upgrades. He's getting whatever he can, but it looks like Neeb going to go back home. Another Colossus on the way. The 4th base being rebuilt. He has 2 robotics facilities, but he can't afford to produce off of both of them. Where's the Templar Archives? Where's the next form of splash damage? Uthermal. He has a planetary at the 4th, so it's not vulnerable. It's not vulnerable to charge lot harass. Already a Ghost Academy on the way. He's putting all the pieces together to solve the puzzle of Protoss Death Balls. Even having the Ghost before Templar are on the field. How many Liberators? I mean, Neeb's still relying on these Colossi. It looks like Uthermal not worrying about it, just continuing to make Medivacs. Neeb in a rough spot here. Some units are loaded up, but at an awkward positioning. He scans and sees the army. There are 2 Colossi to the south here. Uthermal splitting up, but he doesn't realize a pincer coming through. He'll have to retreat. The Stalkers block, and the force fields do it better as he cuts off a big chunk of Uthermal's army. He might have to start thinking about backing up here. These Widowmines going to go down. Neeb takes a good engagement, good tactics there to draw in the Marauders and take a good fight. But now arcing around the corners is Uthermal. A Guardian Shield tries to hold the line. Most of the medevacs still have energy. Another round of Stalkers in the front, but Widowmine's trying to brew as well. Will be targeted down. The Marauder's forced to retreat as Neeb holds on. Another medevac targeted down. Did he blink too far forward? No, the Colossi standing tall in the back. Neeb comes forward again, looking for another medevac. Goes for the one that has the units. Blinks up to the high ground. He's turned the tides on the supply. 102 to 118. Uthermal definitely getting too eager to go for the kill despite having all the tech at home. And Neeb turns it to the other side of the map. It's just Colossi still. He's getting +3. The upgrades 2-2. It's going to be +3 on both sides with the weapons, no armor. Four Vikings on the way. If he commits Stalkers to try to snipe him, there's only 2 medevacs left. Will the boys be pulled? The Colossi are still at the back. This is a pretty good arc potentially for Terran, especially with the barracks on the right side reinforcing. Will the boys be pulled to defend? Stalkers in kind of an awkward position. They're moving over to the right. The boys are off the line. More Marauders are popping out with +3. Neeb arcing around trying to save what Stalkers he can, not really realizing how many units were going to be coming from that angle. But he does have a supply lead. Templar Archives just now starting though. For a while yet, Uthermal has the counter to the splash damage of Neeb. He has 7 Vikings. He feels comfortable with that. He's going to add on some more medevacs here. He's starting to realize that's the direction he needs to go. The Ghost Academy is done. No Ghost yet. As Neeb has committed a little further to the Colossi than Uthermal expected. A drop coming in. Going to see most of the Stalkers. Well, he's going to lose the drop. He's dragged a lot of the Stalkers back. Actually going to pick off a few probes here, very conveniently. Casual Marine on the other side. We'll actually scout the Templar warping in. And this is a big timing. We should see some Ghosts in the production tab very soon. Oh, medevacs coming out. That's not where they wanted to be. A great cutoff for Neeb. The Stalkers blinking back, getting a few more pickoffs aside from those medevacs. Uthermal scans. He sees there's no splash damage behind this. He's on the chase. Neeb expanding towards the center. The Stalkers double back. Catch a medevac. Blink forward. Some units coming back for Uthermal. He has to decide. Does he go forward or does he go back? The Templar are out, but they don't have Storm yet. He doesn't know where they are. This might be his last opportunity to fight before Storm is done. More Liberators on the way. The Stalkers cutting off so much, going for the reactors in that ever-critical starport production. 4th base under fire. The Vikings in position to cut this off. Storm is not done, but the Colossi, one will be taken out, but Stalkers blink in and save the day. The middle base, going to be targeted down. No cancel out of Neeb. 1 Stalker survives in the main, but not for much longer. 156, 154 to 165 supply. Neeb with a large Protoss army. He's lost his 4th. He's lost his 5th. But the fist of Neeb barrels down towards Uthermal, who now has the advantage in economy. He doesn't have the worker count, but he's got access to 4 bases and fresh mineral patches he has to hold. The medevacs overtaxed here and underpaid. The Stalkers coming in. Where are the Templar? The Templar are on the march. Well, I guess they don't really march. They kind of levitate. But anyways, you get the point. Liberators doing a great job picking off charge lots. A handful of Marines. I think we actually saw professional select all army usage there. More units being cut off. Uthermal probably will have to pull some of the boys. The Liberators are the only hope. Boys are already off the line here. This base being sieged. Neeb knocks on the door. The Storms don't quite hit the Liberators. Oh god, the Venn diagram of freedom. Shaving off some units. The orbital is under fire. 18 SCVs have already fallen. Uthermal 151 supply. He lifts the orbital. It's an afterthought. More Liberators come out. Uthermal unsieges. Uthermal's dropped an army off to the left side. He's going to try to cut off some of these units. Here he comes. He knows the Colossi on the other side. If he can spread it out enough, the splash damage can be mitigated. There's only a single Colossus. All the Liberators being blown, swept out of the sky. Most of them are taken out, but the ground army is gone. A Colossus knocked over. Archon's on the way in. He was able to morph some of them. He's out of energy on the medevacs. Neeb with the flank. The charge lots at the top of the ramp. The Archon coming through. This Colossus finds purpose in life. 74 to 125 supply. Uthermal tried to jump on enough of the army, but it held in time for reinforcements. Neeb has a 4th. He's got mining again. He's gutted the 3rd. He's taken out the natural. He's forced Uthermal up to the top of his ramp. And pretty soon, He's gonna force him out of the game. There just aren't the tools anymore here. Neeb has brought it back. Uthermal got a little overeager a couple times. Neeb with some great plays, despite his relatively greedy opening. He recalls. There's a couple drops and run-bys, desperately trying to get something done, but Neeb parries everything. I thought that was almost a BM recall, but Uthermal taps out. And Neeb will take it. It's pretty good. That was a really good game. Me.